1 second, the blinking of an eye, a breath, enough to change the course of a life. We only know how much we love someone when we know what we're willing to sacrifice. I never asked myself that kind of question. Without knowing why, without asking myself how far I would be prepared to go for love. Sometimes it's better not to know. Everything I did for love.
Heavy Rain is an evolving psychological thriller combining dialogue, exploration, and highly cinematic action sequences with a very dense storyline. I think what's quite unique about Heavy Rain is the fact that it's a truly emotional experience. It's a video game in which you're controlling 4 different characters, each with their own abilities and with their own weaknesses. And what's really totally different from other games is the fact that your actions have consequences on the story. So you're going to play the 4 characters in turn. Here at the Gamescom, we're presenting one of the 4 playable characters. His name is Scott Shelby. He's a private investigator. He's been called by the parents of children who've disappeared, who have been killed by the origami killer. And he used to be a cop. And the families of the kidnapped have asked him to investigate, to make his own private investigation. So he's here at Hassan's shop. Hassan is the father of one of the victims. And he's trying to get some information about the disappearance of his son. So he's going to his shop, and at one moment, this guy jumps in. So obviously, we're in a situation here that's quite dangerous. So now, this is really a typical Heavy Rain scene, I would say. It's a scene where your actions can have dramatic consequences. Actually, it's one of the key features of Heavy Rain. In Heavy Rain, there's no game over, but you can lose characters. You can lose 1 character, 2 characters. You can lose the 4 playable characters of the game, and there still is no game over. The story continues. Of course, if you lose the 4 characters, it's going to be quite a sad story, but still, it is going to be an ending, which is quite satisfying to the player. But of course, we expect players to be emotionally involved with their characters and to try to do everything they can to keep them alive and to resolve the case of the origami killer. David Cage, who's the writer and the director of Heavy Rain, is usually working on both. You know, he's starting with a synopsis, so he has the overall story, and then he's working, of course, a lot on characterization, a little bit like in a movie. You know, we're trying to create an emotional experience and with the story at the core of it. So you really need to have a great story and characters that are highly believable. So once you have this paperwork, you start to work on the technology, you start to work on all the graphics, etc., etc. So it's a long process. I think it's a very difficult question to answer because it's really about the experience. The most, I would say, what I'm particularly proud of is when the game is not out yet. So when the testers come back to us and tell us, in this scene I cried, in this scene I laughed. This is something that I'm immensely proud of because this is exactly what we want to achieve. People feeling emotional about this game. Yes, the testers, yeah. Internally we have 10 testers, and at Sony they have also, I think, 29 testers right now testing the game. So really, the first time you play it, even as a tester, you're really in for the experience. And it's quite emotional. You're not only going to cry at the end, I think you're going to feel something very deep throughout the experience. You're going to laugh at some times. You're going to feel proud. You may be quite jealous at some point. So we're really trying to go through the emotional rainbow to a certain extent, and this is, I would say, the key feature. So it's not technical. It's not one thing in particular. It's the whole experience. I think that Heavy Rain's been influenced by many things. I guess the one difficulty we have with Heavy Rain is that no other game has been created like this before. In particular when it comes to interactions, the interface. All this really is totally new. We had to invent everything from scratch. So, of course, we also, on the other hand, took a lot of influences, especially from movies, because this game is very cinematic. So I can think of movies like Seven, very dark thrillers, Silence of the Lambs, those emotional thrillers where characterization is key. Now, to your point, what didn't we want to do? I would say the very one thing we didn't want to do is an adventure game. The typical puzzle-based adventure game. And we started with Fahrenheit to create what we call the interactive drama format. And in Fahrenheit, I think there was one puzzle. In Heavy Rain, there is no puzzle. I think we want to give players the possibility to be on a journey. And a journey is not something about finding the key to open the door to get to the staircase to help the princess. It's about, experiencing something, interacting. But interacting means many things. It means being able to interact with any character in the game, any object, to explore everywhere, to give this feeling of freedom. And also giving the possibility to the player through his actions to truly interact with the story. For the player to be at the same time the actor, the director, and the scriptwriter. And I think this is really unique about Heavy Rain, and this is really what we wanted to achieve. Not really, to a certain extent. I mean, if I look at the core, at the concept of the game Heavy Rain, as we had designed it originally, meaning a single-player experience. Now, of course, when I look in the future and see where this genre could go, I'm thinking multiplayer. I'm thinking online. And there are limitations today. Conceptual. It's us. We have to think how to do it. But also from a technical standpoint, it's quite difficult to create an experience that's online multiplayer and where the story is at the core of the experience. But I think that in a certain future, we will see these games appear, and I think that these are going to be hugely successful. I wouldn't say we're concerned. I mean, we knew from the beginning that we didn't want to create a game where shooting, driving, the basic, the usual gameplay mechanics would be offered. I think we're really targeting anyone who's mature, because Heavy Rain is really offering a mature story for adults. People who like good stories, there are quite a few, I think. And maybe also, when I think of the more core gamers, people who are either sick, really sick of playing always the same games, or simply people who want to try something different. You know, not the usual kill the zombie in the corridor thing. I'm 39 years old now. I've been playing since I'm 10. And I love games like Call of Duty, like Killzone, those action-driven games. I like it, but you know, from time to time, something new is, I think, healthy. And I'm longing for the game I'm making. This is why I did it. You know, I didn't want to do a Me Too product. And I think that a lot of gamers today, you know, the average game age is in Europe is 30 years old. In the US, it's 35 years old. I mean, it's time to bring on the games that are meaningful. It's time for our media to grow up, to appeal to a grown-up audience, and to offer something different than just boom boom all the time. I think we're capable of creating those games from a technical standpoint today. And I think the audience is ready to accept games at this level. I can think of Killer 7. I can think of Ico. So we're not the only ones who are going into this direction. But I think we're too few. But I think, you know, this is something a lot of developers today talk about: emotion, talk about interactive stories. My guess is, from what I've seen at E3, what I've seen a little bit at Gamescom now, I think right now the only ones who are offering something so advanced as Heavy Rain. But I think we're not the first, but we're certainly not the last. And many games in the coming 2-3 years are going to offer this kind of emotional, story-driven experience. I think we're going into this direction. I think talk about magic moments. I think the work with the actors was quite magical. We've worked with 80 actors all in all, but mostly with the 4 main characters. So Ethan Morris, Madison Page, Scott Shelby, and Norman Jayden. And we worked with real actors. We worked with them for 4 months. It's the whole Heavy Rain shooting, motion capture shooting, is 170 days. That's 3 movies. And those 4 actors had each to learn by heart 120 pages of text. So a huge amount of work. And they've been, the 4 of them, Jackie Ainsley, Pascal Langdale, Leon Ockendam, and Sam Douglas. The 4 actors have been fantastic. And I remember one moment that was quite emotional in the motion capture studio is when Sam Douglas was playing one particular scene. He's playing Scott Shelby, and he started to cry in the cabin. And that was quite something. That was quite something. I think, you know, if you want to have a good character in a game, I think you need a number of things, but of course you need the graphics, you need the nice animations, etc., etc. And I think that with Heavy Rain, we're bringing it to the next stage. But I think the single most important thing is what American scriptwriters and movies call characterization. Giving the character shape and form with a backstory, with his dialogues. You know, you can create the most strikingly beautiful, aesthetically graphic character you want. If he isn't served by the right dialogues, if he is not believable from his backstory, from what you understand, his appointment, his car, the music he listens to, everything, it has to be everything. Each detail counts if you want to have a believable character. I think that's the key to creating characters that are long-lasting. I remember in Fahrenheit, people were quite attached to Laura Valenti because I think, in her character was very well written in her dialogues. You could see her evolve in her appointment. You could listen to her music. So those are all the elements that are extremely important when you create a character. Well, to a certain extent, when I go to the other stands and watch what the people are doing, I cannot say I'm angry or frustrated, or I would say I'm surprised, because I think our industry, the games industry, is about innovation. And when you look at the chips, they're evolving every 6 months. But unfortunately, game concepts are only evolving very, very slowly. So I don't know if it's the fault of the developers or the publishers who are too conservative, but I see it actually happening. I think we're too conservative. And I would like to tell developers and also publishers out there, come on guys, we are about innovating. We are a very young industry. We're 25-year-old media. We need to invent now, tomorrow's future. Not only because we're in competition with all other media. Look at how fascinatingly fast internet has evolved. How series on TV have evolved in the past 5-10 years. If we want people to still be involved in what we do, still be interested in video games in 5-10 years, we need to be innovative. We need to offer them something different every 2-3 years. So I'm very proud to be working on Heavy Rain and on a production that really innovates. It's a real risk to innovate, but I think it can be highly rewarding. And I don't know if we're going to set trends, but I hope we will. I think it's the right time for this media to become a true form of cultural expression, to offer meaningful content. And if you look back at cinema, 60 years ago, you had the attack of the train, you had the westerns, and slowly but surely, cinema became a form of art, a form of expression. And now, it's becoming a massive industry. I think that today, we are a big industry by numbers. We're making big dollars. But how many people do we really touch on a continuous basis? My view on this, only a niche. And tomorrow, we could be touching really everyone. Games could really be for everyone. For your mother, for your child.
I don't see my mother playing.
Of course not, because there's no content for her. Other publishers, other developers started offering new things, brain trainings and things like that. So there's one entry point. I think with Heavy Rain, with meaningful content, we can touch the emotional fibers of people. And whatever their age, there might be something interesting for them. Cinema did it. And 40 years ago, you could hear people say, my mother never goes to cinema. It's nothing for her. Of course, a Western's nothing for her. But then the first love stories came. And then your mother was interested. And I'm sure one day you'll play a love story. And you're going to enjoy it very much. Your girlfriend may not play. She can play Heavy Rain, and she is going to enjoy it because it's meaningful. It's not about shooting. It's not about being a control master. It's about thinking. I think we've set some clear objectives. I mean, with Fahrenheit, we obtained critical acclaim and did very good sales in Europe, less in the US, but it's more a marketing issue. With Heavy Rain, we really want to broaden the audience. So we hope to be at the same time a commercial success, sell million and a half copies, because we're making games for people to play them. And we also hope that it's going to be a critical success. But I think that I'm going to feel proud of this if I see other developers embrace the format and start creating games like we do. I think this is probably the ultimate thing where I would measure our success. I think there are many things that people will discover while playing this game. I think it's very difficult to talk and showcase Heavy Rain because we have 60 different scenes. Each of them have bespoke gameplay. Each of them offer totally different interactions. We have 4 playable characters. And I think what is going to surprise people most is the scope of the game. When people see the whole thing, the 60 different sets that we have, the 100+ characters, and how, through your actions, you shape the story. I hope they're going to be positively surprised.